Imagine a life with nothing. No money, no education, no power. Now imagine that same life saving thousands. How does someone who has nothing become everything to so many? This is the story of Abebech Gobena. And by the time you finish watching, you will understand why Ethiopia calls her simply Ime, Mother. She was born in 1938 in a small rural village near Addis Ababa. A simple hut, dusty paths, warm sun, and a childhood shaped not by toys or comfort, but by poverty. She never went to school. She never learned to read or write. But even as a little girl, Abebech carried something rare, a heart that felt other people's pain as if it were her own. As a young woman, she traveled to the capital, Addis Ababa, searching for a better life. But the city did not welcome her with open arms. She became a domestic worker, cleaning homes, cooking meals, earning barely enough to survive. Years passed. Life remained hard. But the woman inside her, the one who noticed the forgotten, the broken, the invisible, she never disappeared. And then came 1984. If you know Ethiopian history, you know what happened next. A famine of devastating proportions swept across the country. Crops failed, livestock died, families collapsed, and in the chaos of survival, the most vulnerable became the most forgotten. The children, the streets filled with them, hungry, alone, dying. It is one thing to hear about a tragedy. It is another thing to walk through it. One day, Abebech was walking through the city and saw a small child sitting on the dusty street, weak, starving, utterly alone. People walked past. Maybe they felt pity. Maybe they felt helpless. But they kept walking. Abebech stopped. She did not have a plan. She did not have savings. She did not have a house with extra rooms. But she had something more powerful than all of that. She could not ignore suffering. She bent down, picked up that child, and took them home. That single decision, lasting maybe 30 seconds, changed the course of thousands of lives. What happened next is almost impossible to understand, because Abebech did not stop at one child. She started noticing more and more, each one hungry, each one abandoned, each one waiting for someone to care. One child became 2, 2 became 10, 10 became dozens, and soon her tiny home was no longer her own. It was a shelter, a sanctuary, a place where children who had lost everything found love again. But loving so many children came at a cost. Abebech had nothing, so she did what only a true mother would do. She begged. She went door to door, market to market, asking strangers for bread, for milk, for anything that could feed a child for one more night. She sacrificed meals so they could eat. She sacrificed sleep so they could rest. She sacrificed her own future to give them one. And here is the most beautiful part. She never saw it as sacrifice. When asked later why she did it, her answer was painfully simple. I couldn't close my eyes. I couldn't close my heart. They were children. They needed someone, so I became someone. Slowly, word of her work began to spread. People in the community started bringing food, clothes, small donations. What began as one woman's impossible love grew into a mission. With the help of supporters, she eventually established an official orphanage and care center, a place with structure, with safety, with education. For the first time, the children had more than survival. They had a future. She called it Ago Helma, the Abebech Gobena Orphanage and School. Over the decades, it became one of the most respected humanitarian organizations in Ethiopia. But numbers do not tell the real story. Walk into any room where these children gathered, and you would see something statistics cannot capture: joy, play, laughter, learning, Children who arrived broken were being put back together. Not by medicine, not by money, by love. They called her Ime, mother, and she was, not by blood, but by something deeper, by choice, by sacrifice, by showing up every single day for children the world had left behind. Now here's something the history books do not always highlight. Abebech was not just feeding children. She was building a generation. Many of the children she raised went on to become doctors, teachers, engineers, and professionals. They walked out of her orphanage and into universities, into careers, into lives of meaning and contribution. Imagine that. A woman who never went to school herself created a legacy of educated, empowered adults who are now changing Ethiopia themselves. That is not just charity. That is transformation. She received national and international recognition for her work, awards, medals, honorary doctorates. But those who knew her say she never changed. She remained humble, simple, always more comfortable sitting on the floor with children than standing on a stage. In 2021, at the age of 85, Abebech Gobena passed away. But here is the truth that needs to be spoken clearly. She did not leave. Not really. She lives in every child she saved, every life she rebuilt, every adult who wakes up today with a profession, a family, a purpose, because one woman refused to walk past suffering. Her body may be gone, but her legacy is alive, walking around in thousands of Ethiopian men and women who call her mother. So what do we learn from a simple woman who changed the world with nothing but her heart? You do not need wealth to be generous. You do not need status to be significant. You do not need a title to be a hero. You only need to stop and care and act. Abebech Gobena turned her pain into purpose, her compassion into action, and her small life into an extraordinary legacy. She proved that the greatest power on earth is not money or fame. It is a heart that refuses to close its eyes. The next time you see someone in need, even just one person, remember the woman who started with one child. Your one small act of kindness might be the beginning of a story that outlives you.